presentation of the NTRA in association with ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports.
It's a key race on the road to the Kentucky Derby, a race that has been won by the giants of the sport. But in 2002, the favorite for the Santa Anita Derby might be best described as a David rather than a Goliath. A little horse that could. Came Home, the diminutive Kentucky Derby hopeful who's done nearly everything asked of him.
Came Home stretches his neck out and then full flight for the wire now.
But now, the questions are becoming more difficult. The races more demanding. Will Came Home be the favorite for the 128th Run for the Roses? Only if he's a winner today, here in California, in the $750,000 Santa Anita Derby. Citgo racing to the Kentucky Derby. Today's coverage of the Santa Anita Derby is presented by Visa.
Santa Anita, one of the most gorgeous settings in all of thoroughbred racing, and home to the biggest Kentucky Derby prep race in the West. In the shadows of the San Gabriel Mountains, this track opened on Christmas Day in 1934, and today celebrates the 65th running of the $750 million Santa Anita Derby. Hello everyone, I'm Jeff Metters. Welcome to Citgo Racing to the Kentucky Derby. Every spring there are always a few key pieces to that Kentucky Derby puzzle. We'll have a couple of those today. The Santa Anita Derby is always a major piece. In the history of this race, 14 alums have gone on to win the Kentucky Derby. For the Illinois Derby, the history is not quite that rich. We see the conditions for it right here, grade $2, $500,000. But what the Illinois Derby does have this year is Repent, one of the early Kentucky Derby favorites. His trainer, Kenny McPeak, plotted a course to the Kentucky Derby through Sportsman's Park in Chicago for a couple of reasons. One, he liked the timing of the race, and two, $1 million bonus to any horse that can win the Illinois Derby and then any of the Triple Crown races. With me is Randy Moss. We have a couple of races today. They're both huge, both 1 1/8 but that's about where the similarities come to an end.
In particular, our favorites are as different as the Cubs and the Dodgers. In the Illinois Derby, Repent is a distance horse. There's no question about his stamina, but the knock on Repent has been his professionalism after his Louisiana Derby win when he veered all over the track and was very slow to change running leads. Here at Santa Anita, Came Home is just the opposite. He's the ultimate professional, but the question about him is his distance capability. Is Came Home just a miler, or will he be a serious Kentucky Derby threat? Today, Came Home will be reintroduced to Mayakovsky, another colt whose distance credentials are somewhat suspect. They squared off in September at Saratoga in the Hopeful Stakes. Came Home won that race by 2 lengths. But today, Jeff, Mayakovsky should set the pace with Came Home right on his heels, and depending on how demanding that pace is, the Santa Anita Derby could tell us a lot about both horses. All right, there are 2 of the top contenders. Let's take a look at the entire 8-horse field. The first of 3 gray horses in the field, Jack Silver has never won a race. He's a maiden, and he'll try to become the first maiden to win the Santa Anita Derby. Dan, the Bluegrass Man, is trained by Bob Baffert, who has won 4 of the last 6 runnings of the Santa Anita Derby, but Baffert says this horse is no point given. A former claimer, Lusty Latin, won the Rattlesnake Stakes at Turf Paradise of all races, but he's improving, and he should get the 1 1/8 distance. Our favorite Came Home was pint-sized last year, as you can see there. Now he's grown into an average-sized horse, but there is nothing average about his 5 for 6 lifetime record. USS Tenosa is named for a famous World War II submarine, and he will try a sneak attack on the favorites today from off the pace. This is Mayakovsky, and this is Mayakovsky winning the Gotham in front all the way despite drifting out in the stretch. He should be in front again today with his new jockey, Pat Valenzuela. D. Wayne Lucas surprised everyone again by entering this horse, Proud Citizen, who hasn't raced since September 1 and has never gone past 7 furlongs. Rounding out the field in the excitement here at Santa Anita is Gelding Easy Grade, second to Came Home in the San Rafael. That's not Gary Stevens there, but Gary will be riding him today, and Stevens has won 8 Santa Anita Derbies. Jeff?
Paco Gonzalez trains our favorite, came home, and he says as far as the race strategy goes, it's all up to rider Chris McCarron. McCarron had a chance earlier to sit down with Charles C. Canny.
From his vantage point as the only jockey ever to have ridden Came Home, Chris McCarron is in an excellent position to speculate on the colt's stamina. And Chris, he stretched out nicely so far to 1 mile. How far do you think he can keep this up?
He'll have to answer that question, Charles C. His mile race last time out was very impressive to me in the way he galloped out after the race. He showed me that another furlong is definitely within his scope. I don't think that that should present a problem today. I'm hopeful that he'll tell us, guess what, I can run a little farther to the 1.25 miles, which is 4 weeks from now. But I can't honestly answer that because I've never been on him in the morning or the afternoon where I've asked him to really persevere for that long a period of time, for 2 minutes and whatever seconds it takes to negotiate a 1.25 miles. But I'm confident that the 1.1 miles is definitely within his scope.
Well, you've been very astute in saying that you'd rather have the sheer class and the talent than the pedigree, because horses can outrun their pedigree all the time, and he looks like a prime candidate.
Horses do outrun their pedigree all the time, and I think the most prominent example I can think of would be John Henry. He was an exception and wasn't very well bred, and other horses are extremely well bred and never reached that potential of that their pedigree indicates. So I think there's too many exceptions to the rule to really harp on the pedigree aspect of it. He's really talented. He gets across the ground in a hurry, and he's so cooperative, but I think his demeanor and his attitude will enable him to carry it further.
He's learned to relax. We'll find out shortly. Chris, good luck. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Charles C.
Chris McCarron looking for his 4th Santa Anita Derby, Jeff.
Thanks, Charles C. And team Came Home already off to a great start earlier today in the San Bernardino Handicap Grade 2. Bosque Redondo got the win, ridden by McCarron, trained by Paco Gonzalez, owned by Trudy McCaffrey and John Toffin, covering the 1 1/8 in a time of 1:49.11. And by the way, there are a couple of interesting wagers going on out there right now, and there's the Derby Double. It's a $1 national wager. You get a chance to just pick the winner of the Santa Anita Derby and the Illinois Derby and the Kentucky Derby. Future wager pool number 3 is open. It opened on Thursday. Johannesburg, people still love him.
Look at that. He's the 5-to-1 favorite right now in Pool 3 betting, despite all the questions about him. He runs tomorrow for the first time and only time before the Kentucky Derby this year in a 7-furlong grass race called the Gladness Stakes in Ireland. And there's another European horse to watch for. Look at 52-to-1 Castle Gandolfo. He won a race in Lingfield, England earlier today, impressively, and he's coming here as well.
Future wager pool number 3 closes at 5:30 tomorrow Eastern time. For more information, you can head to KentuckyDerby.com. When we come back, we'll turn our attention to the Illinois Derby.
The world plays in Italy. ESPN presents action from the Masters of Football, the Italian Serie A. This week from round 30, Chievo versus AC Milan. Chievo's in the battle for European competition, but first they must face off AC Milan's powerhouse. It's the Serie A game of the week, Monday on ESPN.
This ESPN presentation of Citgo Racing to the Kentucky Derby is brought to you by Citgo. We know you. Visa, it's everywhere you want to be. By Beechwood Aged Budweiser, with a crisp, clean, and refreshing taste known only to the king of beers. Long John Silver's, how can you resist? And by Penske Auto Centers, Thoroughbred Racing's quality car care system.
And welcome back to Santa Anita. Randy, we're down to our final few Derby prep races, so your Visa Top 10 list is starting to move from speculation to finalization.
Starting off with Came Home, who of course will take a quantum leap if he wins today impressively. You see Johannesburg number 6, Blue Burner, Sarland, Medaglia d'Oro, and 2 stretch runners who I think you always want for Kentucky. Repent, number 1, Harlan's Holiday, number 2.
Both trained by Kenny McPeak. Let's back up to the Louisiana Derby. Repent won there, but he won ugly, and some people have cooled off on him a little bit.
They have. Even some of his most ardent supporters going into that fairgrounds race have kind of jumped off the bandwagon, so to speak. Personally, I don't think the Louisiana Derby was as bad as it looked. Jerry Bailey was riding Repent for the very first time, and he was struggling to get the horse to change running leads. There's Repent right there. On the rail is Easy from the get-go, who will lose to Repent in just a photo finish, but you see Repent weaving all over the track. Another thing to keep in mind, though, the pace of this race was very slow, the slowest Repent has ever seen. Bailey had to get into the race earlier than Repent once. And so given those two factors, I think Repent is still a horse to be reckoned with.
All right, Repent, part of a 10-horse field at Sportsman's Park today. Let's take a look at them.
We'll start off with Publication, who competed in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile last year, but has been disappointing. Number 2 is Secret Command, a local at 99-1. Scratch One Tough Fox. That's a late development. I talked to the trainer this morning, and he was excited about the race, but now he is out. Changing the Weather, the Canadian champion 2-year-old, is number 4. Watch this one, War Emblem at 8-1, number 5. He's got a race over the track. He should set the pace. Dangerous. 6 is the Fonzas, shipping in from Southern California. Peak Skill, the long shot 3rd in the Florida Derby. Long shot locals Robin Z and Boston Common. And look at the odds on Repent and Jerry Bailey. Despite the post, despite the track, 3-5 right now.
It is all about Repent as he gears up for his final Kentucky Derby prep race. The Illinois Derby's coming up when we come back.
The NHL on ESPN. The Ice Wars rage on towards the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Detroit Red Wings and their team of future Hall of Famers are gearing up for a run for the Cup. They head to San Jose to take on the Sharks. Red Wings, Sharks, tonight, the coolest game on ice. The NHL on ESPN.
To Santa Anita, Citgo Racing to the Kentucky Derby is presented by Visa. And it is a great crowd here at Santa Anita, but we're gearing up to head over to join Sportsman's Park's coverage of the Illinois Derby as Repent prepares to put the final touches on his Kentucky Derby prep. On ESPN Classic this Tuesday at 5:30, our Thoroughbred Classics continue the Bluegrass Stakes, an in-depth look at one of the most influential Kentucky Derby prep races, the history, the horses, the memories. Don't miss it this Tuesday on ESPN Classic. For more information, you can head to ESPN.com. As you can see, the overcast skies here in Los Angeles, really not a bad day for racing. The track here listed as fast, and we go live now to Sportsman's Park, just outside of Chicago. The track there, Randy, also listed as fast, and you can see Repent right now the favorite at 1-2.
Sportsman's Park, the venue for this race in Cicero, Illinois, just outside Chicago. One of the most unusual racetracks in America, simply because if you looked at it from an airplane, it would look like a paperclip. It used to be a half-mile track, and then they decided to run auto races there as well as horse races, so they completely reconfigured the track, but they kept the turns. The turns are extremely sharp, and the stretch run is endless. It's the longest in North America, 1,436 feet. The problem is that with those turns, even though the stretch is so long, the track tends to favor speed horses. The speed horses can negotiate those tight turns a lot more readily, typically, than a lumbersome, come-from-behind kind of horse. That's the big challenge that Repent has in this race, is overcoming that sort of inherent Sportsman's Park bias.
Probably another reason why you think War Emblem is a serious candidate here.
Exactly. War Emblem had a race over the track, and it was the Illinois Derby Prep is what they called it. It was an allowance race, and he won it by almost 11 lengths, wire to wire. I think he'll probably get the early lead here. I know trainer Bobby Springer and jockey Larry Sterling have said that those are the plans. Maybe the 2 Secret Command or the 9 Boston Common could push him early. But given the way the Sportsman's Park track usually plays, War Emblem, especially at that 8-1 price, is very enticing.
And if it's a tough turn for a horse, you can imagine how it is in a car.
Yeah, it's funny. They have to take the dirt up from the racetrack, you know, store it, and then when it comes time for the horse races to be run again, they bring it all back and lay it down and smooth it out. But they really haven't had any significant problems with that so far. It's a logistical nightmare, though. Fonz is another horse in this race, number 6, the horse from Southern California. He's in the hot pink silk, so you'll see him easily.
For the call, here's John Dooley.
From between horses, War Emblem breaks right on cue. Secret Command toward the inside. Fonz's is up close. Boston Common on the outside as they come past the stands for the first time. It is War Emblem and Larry Sterling Jr. to dictate the Illinois Derby pace. Boston Common just covering Fonz's, followed then by Secret Command running in 4th. Peak Skill 5th. Publication down inside, running in 6th and just in back of the heels of Secret Command. Followed then by Change in the Weather, who settles in nicely toward the back of the field. Robin Z, and finally Repent, last to the 9. The opening quarter, solid enough, 23-2. War Emblem running unopposed down the backstretch. Larry Sterling Jr. On a long rein with War Emblem to dictate the pace here to Secret Command, and Fonz's right there running third. Boston Common and Publication next. Followed then by Peekskill and Robin Z. They're both 7 from the solo frontrunner War Emblem. Change in the weather, and Repent now moving up well out into the track, but beginning his move. The half in 48 and 1. Rounding the far turn, 3 furlongs to go. There's been no pressure for War Emblem. He's been unchallenged throughout. 2.5 furlongs to go. Fonz's second. Repent now in the midst of his rally third. Publication fourth. Then it's Robin Z, Boston Common, Change in the Weather, Peekskill, and Secret Command. They're well into the stretch. 6 furlongs, 113 flat, and it's War Emblem running to the 8th pole. In front here by 5. Repent in a hard drive, drifting in second. Fonz's third. The others well in back of War Emblem, who's going to stroll home in the Illinois Derby. War Emblem and Larry Sterling Jr. ridden out to best. Repent by 7. Fonz's was third. Robin Z finished fourth. It was War Emblem in 1:59 and 4.
And Randy hit it right on the head as far as War Emblem and the charge that he made in this race.
Well, they didn't get to hear and they're off, but they got to see the rest of it. War Emblem just coasted to the early lead. The fractions were very slow, 48 and change, and he just absolutely dusted Repent.
When we come back, the reaction from Fort Sportsman's Park as Repent is beaten in the Illinois Derby. The Citgo Racing to the Kentucky Derby still to come. The 65th running of the Santa Anita Derby. And just finished the Illinois Derby where Repent was upset by War Emblem. Tomorrow night on ESPN, Sunday Night Baseball and American League West battle as the A's take on the Mariners. It all starts at 7 Eastern. For more, you can log on to ESPN.com. And Randy, War Emblem was beaten by Repent in the Risen Star Stakes by 9 3/4 lengths and gets some revenge today.
Yeah, in that race in the Risen Star, they tried to experiment to take him back off the pace. That obviously did not work. They let him roll last time at Sportsman's Park, and in the nice little floppy hat there's trainer Bobby Springer congratulating winning jockey Larry Sterling. Sterling picks up the mount on this horse when jockey Alfredo Juarez decided to ride Fonz's instead of War Emblem, a decision that he no doubt is regretting as we speak. You see War Emblem turning for home there. A very easy pace, 48 and change. Repent just to the outside of Fonz's. Notice Repent is running on his left lead again. That is a problem that has been nagging this horse. Bailey does get him to switch to his right lead right about here, but it wasn't going to make any difference. Repent, given the, War Emblem, given the pace and the ease with which he was able to set that pace, was long gone. And it's going to be totally different in the Kentucky Derby. He's going to be a much faster pace with more speed horses, and Repent will no doubt run better, but his credentials certainly aren't enhanced by this race at all.
Sterling Jr. having his best meet ever, leading the current standings. And for Springer, he wins as a trainer with his very first mount in the Illinois Derby.
This is the very first time Springer has even saddled a horse in a $500,000 race. Those are very, very familiar Chicago Silks there. Russell Reineman, 84 years old. He's been associated with Springer for 15 years now. Has had some great horses in Chicago and Florida for years, and it's nice to see him get a win in a big race.
Well, if you're the McPeak camp, do you have any concerns at all about Repent now as we head just 4 weeks away from the Kentucky Derby?
And knowing the Sportsman's Park bias and knowing the fact that War Emblem got an easy lead and all that, still, I think Kitty McPeak would like to have seen Repent change leads on cue, really come charging at the end. If he was going to lose, at least, go out in glory. That's not what happened. If that 7-length call by John Dooley is correct on the winning margin, then that would be the largest winning margin in Illinois Derby history. It was a runaway.
And keep in mind that McPeak also has Harlan's Holiday loaded in terms of the 3-year-old, so he's a guy that you look to make a big impact in the Kentucky Derby in 4 weeks from now.
Most people already had Harlan's Holiday #1. I was a little stubborn, but I think now I'd have to move Harlan's Holiday up above Repent as well.
Flip-flop the top 2 in your top 10 list.
Yeah.
As you can see right there, War Emblem making his way into the winner's circle after winning the Illinois Derby and throwing his name now in the ring for a possible Kentucky Derby winner.
As far, you know they're going to run him in the Kentucky Derby, but as we've said time and time again, early speed can be a disadvantage in Kentucky. This horse, if he winds up running in the Derby, if Came Home winds up running, if Booklet winds up running, then it looks like you're going to have another scenario where a real hot pace is going to play a big role in Louisville.
And you can see the time there, 1:49 4/5. War Emblem getting the win, paying well, 14:60 4:40 2:10. And for Repent, his first defeat of 2002, finishes in second place. And the Exacta paying well at 31.40. And now we kind of change gears, get back to the Santa Anita Derby. We talked about Came Home, we talked about Mayakovsky, but there's some other horses in the Santa Anita Derby that have a chance to maybe also pull the upset and get the win.
And one of the reasons why that is that we don't expect to see a race like we just saw at Sportsman's Park with the lone speed going very slowly. This race should have a lively pace at least.
And let's take a look at the field now with their current odds.
You see Came Home is bet down to 3-2 favoritism. He was the program favorite, so that's no surprise. This is a slight surprise, though. USS Tenosa, the second choice right now at 5-2. Mayakovsky 3-1, and another long shot with a good chance. Easy Grades there. He should come running late as well, and he is 7-1. Of the many storylines in the Santa Anita Derby today, none is more compelling than that of jockey Pat Valenzuela, who picks up the mount on Mayakovsky. Now, this is the same Valenzuela who rode Sunday Silence to win the Kentucky Derby. That was back in 1989. Very impressive win. And you remember Arazi's fearsome move in the 91 Breeders' Cup Juvenile? Well, that was Valenzuela, too. Those were the happy times. But as much as baseball has had its Steve Howe and Darryl Strawberry heartbreaks, racing has the saga of Valenzuela, who is now on his fourth comeback from substance abuse suspensions. Since he's succumbed to temptation so many times in the past, is this comeback going to be any different for P. Val? Well, that's something that even he can't answer.
Never ever did I think about not riding racehorses. You know, it's been my dream since I was knee-high, and the Lord gave me the ability to ride racehorses, and I steered myself the wrong way in the past, you know, and hopefully I'll be able to stick with it this time and focus on racing and not take it for granted, and, you know, so I was going a little too far and a little too fast.
Pat Valenzuela truly believes that the fourth time might just be the charm. Valenzuela returned to riding December 26th after his latest suspension. But whether or not you believe that the one-time Kentucky Derby winner is finally on the straight and narrow, there is no denying his incredible talent. After being away from racing for 5 of the last 6 years, Valenzuela has regained his status as one of Southern California's top riders in just 3 months. He's currently 6th in the standings here at Santa Anita, home to some of the world's top jockeys.
It's unbelievable. It really is. I mean, for a guy to come up in any sport, you don't see it happen where a guy takes a 2-year leave of absence and comes back and is riding top-notch with the best riders in the world. It doesn't happen. He's a freak. He really is.
Nick Casado was Valenzuela's agent the last time the jockey attempted a comeback. That was late 1999, and after 4.5 months, Valenzuela tested positive for amphetamines, and Casado vowed never to work for Valenzuela again. But after a chance meeting in a supermarket late last year, Casado decided to believe in P. Val one more time.
Yeah.
So now things are going unbelievably well for the duo, but for how long? What will ultimately make this return a success after 3 others have failed?
I would say his work ethic and his attitude off the racetrack. The way he is with his family. He's just so much more responsible. And as far as work-wise, he's been out here probably 6 and 7 mornings a week, getting on 5 and 6 horses a morning, which is just, it's unheard of for a guy that's going to ride 6, 7 horses in the afternoon. So those 2 things in combination are the 2 biggest tangibles that I see different in him.
I think any addictive personality is kind of a disease, whether it be drugs, alcohol, gambling, or an eating disorder. And you know, as long as you put a 12-step program into your life and apply it every day on a daily basis and put the good Lord in your life, I think you have a shot in life. You know, I can only take it one day at a time. You know, and that's all I'm going to do. And it's all I've been doing. And, you know, it's made me a better father, a better friend, a better person, and hopefully a better jockey.
Well, as was the case in his previous comebacks, he has to undergo random drug tests. Our Citgo leaderboard current standings, rider standings here at Santa Anita. You can see he has 29 wins. He's 19th nationally in earnings, so having a pretty good year. For more on Mayakovsky, let's go to Charles C.
Trainer Patrick Biancombe did a masterful job of getting Mayakovsky ready to win the Gotham Stakes after over 6 months on the shelf from an injury. But Patrick, I think the accomplishment was overshadowed a little bit because he drifted out so severely in the stretch. Have you figured out any reason why that happened?
No, we'll find nothing. I hope he's 5 legs in front at the 8 pole, and I hope he drifts today.
And clear of the view. This will be his first time around 2 turns. This, of course, was the 1-turn mile at Aqueduct in the Gotham, and he had a clear, easy lead here where you can begin to see him in the pan shot stretching out, but watch the head-on shot, Patrick. He really ducks out pretty good.
Yes, he does that. We have done a few modifications anyway to make sure this don't happen, but you never know. We have done that when he wins his first race of breaking the track record. He do it that day. I hope he don't do it today. He's still a big baby, but he need to still learn about racing. But it's a tough race to learn today, but I mean, I hope he do it well.
Only his 4th lifetime start. Best of luck to you, Patrick. Thank you for your time. Jeff?
And our post parade brought to you by Long John Silver's. You see that K and gavel. That means it's a Keeneland sales grad.
And we start off with Jack Silver, a half-brother to Jamaican Rum, 6th in last year's Kentucky Derby. Although he's 0 for 5, he was 2nd to Came Home in the San Vicente 2 months ago. That's Victor Espinosa's picture there on the screen. Number 2, Dan the Bluegrass Man, looks like Bob Baffert's last Kentucky Derby hopeful. But Baffert said that while in past years he was driving the Santa Anita Derby bus, this year he feels like just a passenger. Dan the Bluegrass Man was 2nd in the El Camino Real Derby at Golden Gate. This horse, Lusty Latin, was 3rd in that race, rallying from last place under jockey Glenn Corbett. There is Corbett there, and you can look for this horse back in the pack, probably last early today as well. This is Came Home, who suffered his only defeat in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile last year. He missed some training time recently when he got stuck in the corner of his stall and couldn't get up. Then he came down with a slight fever, but trainer Paco Gonzalez says he's 100% for this race. On the Triple Crown Trail this year, we have 2 prominent Ohio breds. Harlan's Holiday and this horse, USS Tenosa, who was 2nd in the San Felipe to Medaglia de Oro. Jerry Hollendorfer, the trainer, Kent DeZormo aboard. He should run mid-pack early. Mayakovsky, though, should go to the front early with Valenzuela aboard, stroking his mane there. Trainer Patrick Biancone, who you just saw, is restarting his career after a controversial suspension in Hong Kong. Valenzuela also on the comeback trail, and they team up this afternoon. Much has been made of trainer Wayne Lucas's 20-year streak of participation in the Kentucky Derby, which ended last year. Well, this horse, Proud Citizen, gives Lucas 24 consecutive years with the starter in the Santa Anita Derby. Lucas has won this race 4 times. And there is Easy Grades, a son of Honor Grades, the stallion who died 6 days ago in a paddock accident in Kentucky. If Easy Grades isn't in mourning, his father-son training team of Ted West Jr. and Sr. expect him to run well today. The Clockers are raving about him. And again, 8-time Santa Anita Derby winner Gary Stevens has the mount.
On this week's Juddmonte Farms Foal Patrol, we feature the dam of our favorite here, Came Home, Nice Assay, who recently was 2 weeks overdue, if you can believe that. Nice Assay won nearly $500,000 and a grade 3 in her career, and you can tell right there she's a little bit overdue, but she finally had that baby, and now Came Home has a brand new half-sister. The filly sire is a 1990 Kentucky Derby winner, the late Unbridled. She'll be one of his final daughters in his final crop. The 6-week-old filly, as well as Nice Assay, are owned by Sheikh Mohammed Maktoum Al Maktoum. Because of Came Home's success, Sheikh Mohammed has bred Nice A back to Gone West. The Foal Patrol is brought to you by Juddmonte Farms. To see all their stallions, log on to juddmonte.com.
ESPN has the sports you love to watch.